Alright, Title 4, Reinstatement of the Lease of the and Conversion of the Unpatented Oil Placer Claims, Amendment of the Mineral Lands Leasing Act of 1920, Section 401, Section 31 of the Mineral Lands Leasing Act of 1920 is amended with the redesignating subsection D with a subsection J by inserting after subsection C the following new subsection. D1, Title 30 U.S. Standard Code 226, where any oil and gas issued pursuant with the Section 17B with the 17C with the Act of the Mineral Leasing Act with the Acquired Lands Title 30 U.S. Standard Code 351 intent secrets has been or hereinafter terminated automatically by operational law under the section failure to pay on before the anniversary date of the full amount of the rental due for the such of the rental is not paid with the tendering of the 20 day thereafter they shown with the satisfaction of the Secretary of the Interior that such failure was justifiable to do not due to lack of the reasonable diligency of the part of the leaser. No matter when the rental was paid in after the termination shown with the satisfaction secretary that such failure was inadvertent, the secretary made the reinstatement of the lease of any of the day of the termination of the unexpired portion of the primary term, original lease, and any extension of thereof the remaining of the date of the termination and long thereafter. As oil, gas is produced with the paying quantities, any of the case wherever the lease is reinstated under subsection A with the secretary fine with the reinstatement of the such lease A that occurs after the expiration of the primary term of the extension thereof. B will not afford the leaser of the responsible opportunity to continue operations under the lease of the secretary may, at his discretion, extend for the term of the lease for the such period that he deems reasonable, but that no event further than more than 20 years from the day of the secretary authorizes the reinstatement so long thereafter of the oil and gas produced for the payment inequalities. No lease should be reinstated within paragraph 1 of the subsection unless A, the respective of any of the lease is terminated in subsection B of the section prior to the reenactment of the enactment of the Federal Oil Gas Royalty Management Act of 1982. If the leaser tender rental prior to the enactment of such of the act, with the final determination of the lease terminated was made by the secretary or court less than 3 years before an enactment of such act. If the petition for the reinstatement together with the required back rental royalty acquiring the date from the day of the termination filed with the secretary on and before the 120th day after the enactment of such an act, B, the respect, and this was the ANTP 2447. B, with respect to any of the lease of the terminated under subsection B of the section of the enactment of the Federal Oil Gas Royalty Management Act of 1982, a petition for the reinstatement of the required back rental and royalty accruing from the day of the termination is filed on before earlier of 60 days after the leaser received from the secretary notice of the termination, whether the return of the check of any of the other form of the actual notice. 2, 15 months of any of the termination of the lease. Any reinstatement under subsection D of the section shall be made only if these conditions are met. 1. No valid lease for the whether still assistance of the existence of the not shall have been issued affecting any of the lands covered by the terminated lease prior to the filing of such petition, provided here that after the receipt of the petition reinstatement, the secretary shall not issue any new lease affecting any of the lands covered by the such terminated lease in reasonable period as determined in accordance with the regulations issued by him. This is reinstatement of conditions. Alright, Part 2 is Title 30 U.S. Standard Code 226. Payment of back rentals either by inclusion of the reinstated lease issued pursuant to the provisions of the Section 17B of the Act, reincurment of future rentals on the rate not less than more than 10% per acre per year, per acre per year of the inclusion of the reinstated lease issued pursuant to the provision of the Section 17C of the Act, the requirement of the future rentals shall be at the rate of not less than $5 per acre per year, as also determined by the Secretary. 3. At payment of the back royalty for the inclusion of the reinstated release issue pursuant to the provision of the Section 17B of the Act, the requirement of the future royalty for the rate with not less than 16.2 per 16 and 2/3 of the percent computed in sliding scale based upon the average production per well per day, and a rate should not be less than 4% points greater than the competitive royalty should be and then enforced or used for royalties. Alright, for determination of the competitive lease of the issue, pursuant with the satisfaction of the term of the secretary provide the royalty of the of the reinstatement shall be paid and with the final production removed the on the sold of the special lease subsequent to the termination of the original lease. B, the payment of the back royalties including the reinstatement of the lease of the issue pursuant to the provision of the Section 17C of this Act with the requirement of future royalties rates of not less than 16 and 2/3 of the percent provided with the royalty on such reinstated lease should be based on all production removed and sold from such a lease for the subsequent cancellation and termination of the original lease. and notice of the proposed reinstatement of the terminated lease, including the terms of the condition of the reinstatement, shall be published with the Federal Register at least 30 days in advance of the reinstatement. This is the publication in Federal. A copy of the said with the notice of it together with the information concerning with the rental, with the royalty, with the volume of the production, if and any of the other material matter which the Secretary deems significant, and make of his determination reinstatement that shall be furnished for the Committee of the Interior, of the Interior Affairs of the House of Representatives, and the Committee of the Energy and Natural Resources of the Senate at least 30 days in advance of the reinstatement. The lease is reinstated lease shall be reimbursed the Secretary for the administrative cost of the reinstating the lease, but not exceeding $500. Additional to the leaser shall reimburse the Secretary for the cost of the publication in the Federal Register of the notice of proposed reinstatement. Or call for the publication in the Federal Register, whether unpatented, placed during mineral mining claim validity, located prior to February 24th, 1920, has been and currently producing or capable of producing oil and gas, has been or hereafter deemed conclusively abandoned for a failure to file timely required instruments or copies of the instruments required in subsection 314 of the Federal Land Policy Management Act of 1976, also shown in satisfactory secretary of the such failure was inadvertently justifiable, not due to lack of the reasonable due diligence owed on the part of the owner, and secretary may issue for the lands covered in abandonment of unpatented oil placer mining claim on a non-competitive oil gas lease consistent with the provisions of the Section 17E of the Act, and effective from the statutory date the claim was deemed conclusively abandoned. Issuance of such a lease shall be continued upon can be conditioned upon, and this is Title 30 U.S. Standard Code 226, a petition issuance of the non-competitive oil gas release together required rental and rental royalty, including back payment of royalty accruing from the statutory date of the abandonment of the oil placer mining claim, being filed with the Secretary. A. With respect to any of the claim deemed the conclusive of the abandonment of the only on and before the day of the enactment of the Federal Oil Gas Royalty Management Act of 1982, with the on and before the 120th day after such date of the enactment, or the B. With respect to any of the claim to be deemed conclusively abandoned after such a date, enactment on or before the 120th day after the final notification of the Secretary of the Court of the competent jurisdiction to determine termination of the abandonment of the oil placer mining claim. 2. A valid lease not having been issued affecting any of the lands covered with the abandoning of the oil placer mining claim prior to the filing such a petition, provided however thereafter of the filing of the petition issuance of the lease under the section, Secretary shall not issue any lease affecting any of the other lands covered in such abandoned oil placer mining claim for a reasonable period and is determined in accordance with the regulations issued by him. 3. A requirement in the lease payment of the rental, including back rentals, acquiring the statutory date of the abandonment of the oil placer mine claim no or not less than 5% acre per year. 4. A requirement of the less of the payment of the royalty of the production removed of the sold from oil placer mining claim, including all royalty production made subsequent to the statutory date of the claim was deemed conclusively abandoned with not less than 12.5%, complying with the notice of the reimbursement of the cost provision, paragraph 4 of the subsection E, but addressed to the petition covering the conversion of the abandoned unpatented oil placer mining claim then as non-competitive oil gas lease. G1. Except as otherwise provided in the section reinstated, the lease shall be treated as competitive, non-competitive oil gas lease in the same manner of the original lease issued pursuant to Section 17B or 17C of this Act. Except as otherwise provided in the section issuance of the lease of an abandoned patented oil placer mining claim shall be treated as a non-competitive oil gas lease issued pursuant to the Section 17C of this Act. The minimum royalty provision, Section 17J of the provision of Section 39 of this Act, shall be applicable to the release of the issue pursuant to subsection 30D and F of the section. Alright, I-1. An acting petition issued with a non-competitive oil gas lease under subsection F of this section is responsive to requests filed after the issuance of such a release. Both the Secretary is authorized to reduce the royalty of the such lease if his judgment is to do equatable to do with the so for the circumstances warrant such relief due to the uneconomic other circumstances which could cause the undue hardship or premature termination of the production. That was those were titles the U.S. Standard Code 226 and 30 U.S. Standard Code 209. An acting petition reinstatement pursuant to subsection D of this section of the responsive request filed after reinstatement, both Secretary authorized to reduce royalty, reinstated lease entire leasehold of any tract portion thereof, the segregated royalty purposes, if in his judgment on their uneconomical other circumstances with cause undue hardship, premature termination of the production because of any written interaction with the United States and its agents, employees, precede was major consideration in the leaser's expenditure of the funds developing the property under the lease after the rent has been become due, has not been paid, and if the judgment of the Secretary is equatable to do so for any reason, approved January 12, 1983. And this was Public Law 97451, January 12, 1983, or 962466. And this was actually noted as this was a short title act. It's called the Federal Oil Gas Royalty Management Act of 1982, which was made into Public Law 97451. That's 97 of the Congress.